So that is why we are having this session again today so that you guys can ask your questions, any questions you have or anything you need to clarify. Okay. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you. So over to you, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you.
All right, everyone. So as I'm told, this is just like question and answer session. So if you have any questions, let me know. If I need to share my screen, I'll share my screen to explain the concept to you. So if you have any questions, just shoot it at me, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Issa. So if you have any question, you can just type it in the chat box or mute your device and just ask your questions. Okay. So Mr. Gori Abraham, do you have any question so far based on what you've been learning? Is there any question you want to ask? Is there anything you want to clarify? Please feel free to ask.
Okay, you just say, like I said earlier, I want to just to have a better grasp of how we're doing. Yes, we've gone through the videos with a lot of things to remember, but without the number 8 9, I have to be looking at the way the video for me to solve that Excel sheet, just to see what they're doing. So if you can run through 8 and 9 again, and I'm hoping, like I suggested to Pace, you can give us a real life scenario where we'll be able to apply what we saw in 8 and 9. And you might just give us a time frame for us to submit that assignment. It's just a suggestion. I mean, even if eventually we'll do 10 or 12%, you'll be able to monitor our progress to see whether we really understand that video. This is my own thought. I don't know how other people, maybe other people are grabbing faster than I wouldn't know. But I just realized that when I was trying to solve it, I had to look at that video again. So I was thinking it's something that we can digest and look, maybe not the same questions, because I know in real life, because I want to be able to think that after this 1 week or 2 weeks that we have done, we should be able to solve real life problems with Excel at least. Let's forget Power BI. Let's look at a small retail store or a small company and maybe a distributor that is distributing sales, and the only thing they can afford is an Excel analysis, for example. If you can just give us a real life scenario, not to plot, just say, can you advise? Because that's what will happen in real life, right? I go to a particular customer, for example, and we are not making sales. So can you advise us what you think we should do in form of a report? This is my own suggestion. And they give you the Excel sheet that their sales girls has been imputing. Some may be good data, some may be bad data. Maybe just type on them. I don't know how it's done. I'm not a data analyst. I'm just learning from you. Because I have to be looking at that video to be doing that, which I'm not even sure even many things sank into my head. But we can just go through it and I simplify it, and maybe you can just for us to be sure that we know Excel before we really go into Power BI. This is just my own thought. So that we can recap all the things we've learned in Excel and say this is a real life scenario that you have given us to go and solve with all we have learned. And let each individual, don't tell us maybe it's what kind of chart to plot. We should just make that decision and come back. Obviously, we may not get it, we may get it. We now maybe another platform to now say, okay, let me see, or we can submit, or maybe we can share a link. Maybe we'll upload to our Google Drive and share a link of what each person has done. Then you can now give back comments, and maybe have a session where you can now explain better what you think the solution. This is just my thoughts, so that maybe that way we can grab and just assume that we know something. But you can help us, my own, maybe 8 and 9 again, and just see that we are very good in the Excel analysis with the Power BI dashboard and everything before we have to come back. Thank you.
All right. So first of all, let me say this, that don't expect to not go back to the videos for reference. I mean, this is the first time you're interfacing with something. No one expects you to be a pro at the first time. So if you need to go back to the video, tens of times you need to. When I started learning, I needed to refer back to materials and manuals. So don't let it look like you are not learning, or you're not coming up to speed when you find yourself having to refer back to materials or lectures. It is normal. That's how it should be. And also, you can't watch one Excel video and expect to be a pro. So it takes months and days of iterative learning. You need to learn practice until you finally grasp what it actually is. So for what you said about the classwork or an assignment or something, so I think it makes sense, but right now I don't have any data like that. So what I can do is I could just come up with data. I think I could just come up with data and just kind of paint a scenario with data I generated, because can't just find I'm going to come up with maybe a data and give the questions and say, okay, do this, do that, and then, like you said, you can submit it. Yeah, and say I should go through it up 8 and 9 again. Okay, I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to talk at a very high level what TPBIT and 9 was all about. I did this already in the previous class, but I'm just going to do it again, right? So EDAB 8 was talking about how to use the Power Pivot in Excel, basically for transforming data and for visualizing data, basically. So I'm just going to attempt to do that so that we can see. So just like in the video, this is my Excel workbook, right? So what the guy did was, he connected to an SQL server and imported data. So I'm going to do the same thing for, reproducibility. So I'm going to connect to, I have an SQL server instance on my local computer. That's why I'm able to do this. So I explained in the previous session that the server name for your local host is just a dot, or your laptop name, but you can just put a dot if you have the server installed on your computer. So I'm just going to connect to this, and I'm going to pick similar tables to what was picked in that video. So the person picked a product table. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here where I say dim products, right? I'm going to pick dim products. I'm going to pick a something like a country, but I don't have a country here. But what comes close is something called the sales territory. So I'm going to pick dim sales territory, and it picked the fact table. So I'm going to pick fact internet sales. The previous session, I kind of explained what fact and dimensions mean. So let me just quickly paint a scenario. If you go to ShopRite and you buy something like bread, for example, the dimension is bread, and the fact is the amount of, in Naira, the value or whatever currency it is that you bought the bread for. So if I buy bread for 100 Naira, the dimension is the bread and the fact is the 100 Naira. So facts are, basically values, while dimensions are attributes of that values. So back to what I'm doing in Excel, I'm just going to click on finish. Sorry about this. Then I'm going to say only create a connection, and okay. So what it's going to attempt is going to attempt to import those tables into my Excel. So I'm going to be able to go to Power Pivots and make the data ready for whatever I want to do, basically. So I'm just going to wait for this to load up. All right, so this is done. Now, you don't see anything here, you don't see any changes here, because what it does is save to the data model. So if you see here, where my mouse is, it says manage data model. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to click here, and it's going to take me to where the data model is. And here we're going to see the tables we imported. You can see here we have our dim product, we have our dim sales territory, and we have our fact internet sales. Now, the next thing the guy went on to do was to create, some measures, just some stuff to, perform analysis on. So I'm just going to use the same column, same measure I used in the previous class, which is profit. So I'm just going to say, since some of us have watched the video now, so there's a bit of context now. So there are things called calculated columns, and there's something else called measures. Does anyone know the difference between calculated column and a measure? So I will know how to digest this. Anyone?
No, I don't know the difference. I just know there's calculated columns because of it. I just.
All right. So a calculated column is, for example, now we have this table as it is. These are columns, right? All these are columns. Now, calculated column is what you add here. Now, let me show what I mean now. Let me just call this a profits, for example. Now here, I'm just going to say, so by this now, let me say at a very high level, let me just say, this was what they sold the particular good for. This is the tax amount of that good, and this is the freight cost of that good. So let me just say the profit for, per product here will just be the sales amounts, minus, I can just click on the column name actually, minus this and minus that. And I'm going to hit enter. Now, here, my values I have here, originally, you can see these values did not come with the table, but then it's a column on this table. That's the calculated column. You can see it's colored black. So, this is just basically saying, okay, now this did not come originally from data source. You had to, modify this table to add this calculation. And in this regard, it's called profit. Now, let me now show what a measure is. A measure is not on the table. A measure is not a column. A measure is just a value that references columns from that table. Let me just give an example now. Let's say I want to know now this sales amount. Now I want to know the total sales amount here, right? It doesn't make sense to create a calculated column for total sales amount because you have sales amounts for each of these rows, but then you want to be able to sum it up and say, okay, what is the total sales amount? Now that's what a measure does for you. So I'm just going to say, let me just note. So if you want to add calculated columns, you do calculated columns on the table level here. And when you want to add measures, you add measures anywhere below this line. So this is the line that, kind of, distinguishes between the table and where you can put your measures. So anywhere here, a measure can stay. So let me just pick the cell, for example, and let me just say total sales, right? And I'm going to say equal to, and I'm going to say sum. Now, can anyone tell me why this is not working?
Because there's no semicolon or colon.
All right, that's fantastic. So there needs to be a colon here, right? For Power BI to represent, okay, hey, what I'm trying to do here is a measure. So once you put a column here, right, then now you can see now this sum now is, it's now a function. So you can just say sum total sales, right? Let me just say sales amounts. And I'm just going to close it up and I'm just going to hit enter. And you can see here, this is my total sales. So let me just do a bit of formatting. Let me just make it, it's a US data set, so most likely it's a dollar. So let me just use dollar as a currency.
So is there Naira in the currency?
Yeah, there's Naira. There's Naira. Okay, for some reasons I don't know why my stuff's not clicking, but there's actually Naira. There's Naira in the currency. Let me show you in a normal Excel. For example, now let me say I have this number, right? And I want to make this Naira. So you just come here. Yeah, you say more accounting formats. So when you say more accounting format, it opens up a lot of formats for you. So you just say currency, symbol, So let's see. You can see here, so we have Naira and Edo, Hausa, Igbo. So you can just pick any of them. So let's just say, well, I'm Hausa, so let me say Hausa. Let me just say Hausa. So boom, you can see it has formatted it in Naira. So there's actually Naira. There's virtually all major currencies in Excel or Power BI, right? So that's how we have, our total sales here. So now at a very high level, now we can see the difference between a calculated column and a measure. Now, what the guy now goes, over to do is, so after doing all this, now this is your data model. Next thing you want to do is actually you want to, create some sort of visualization in your pivot table. So next thing you just click here, pivot table, and it takes you directly to the Excel, which is like the front facing. So you click here, and I say, okay, where do you want to create pivot table? I say new worksheet. I say, okay. Now, this is your pivot table. Now, this is where you're going to be able to visualize what you have done in the back end. So where we just came from now, the data model, see that's the back end, and where we are now, see that's the front end. Now, we have all this stuff here. We have filters, columns, rows, and values. So filters are basically, what you can filter your table by. Columns are, so anything you drag into column is going to appear column. So these are columns and these are rows. So any data set is, any data table, basically any physical data table is distributed into rows and columns. So I'm just going to go back here and I'm just going to say, so let's see the profit by product name. For example, now this part, whatever company this is, they have, number of products. And let's say they say, okay, hey, you're a data analyst. We want to see, the products we have most profit on. So can you show us that, kind of analysis? And you just come here and say, okay, English product name, right? So you want to put this on the rows, right? So that it shows you the rows. So you can see these are all the products. These are all the products. And then you want to see the profits. So for the profit, you just go to where the calculated column. Remember, I already done this in the calculated column. So you just go look for profit. Where's the profit? Where's the profit?
Profit will be that internet sales table.
Yeah, so I'm just going to search. You can actually just search for it and just say, okay, so I'm going to search for it and I'm going to drag it to values. And just like that, you have, all the products by profit, right? And you can just tell them, okay, I mean, this is the profits for all these various stuff. You can also start ascending or descending, per how you want to do it, and say, okay, from what we see, it looks like so and so is the highest. Let me just kind of do that. So you can see now, so I just sorted it, largest to smallest. So
sorry,
now for more.
Sorry, please, can you just do what you just did now? The sorting, please. I've been trying to do this for long.
Okay, so this is what you do. So normally in Excel, right? So let's say you have this now. You have 34 for so just let me just do random values right now. If you want to sort this, you can just say, okay, do all this, right click, sort, smallest to largest, or largest to smallest, anyone, largest to smallest, and it sorts it for you. But in this case, you can't just do it like that here because it's a pivot table, right? Or yes. maybe you can, and I don't know, but then I mean there's just an easy way. So what you just come here and just click anyone here, just say sort. So when you say sort, you can see here smallest to largest, largest to smallest. So let me just say largest to smallest, and it has sorted for me from the largest to smallest. So you can now go back and tell the executive manager that, okay, so from analysis, I can see that these products gives us the the most profit. So why don't we pump more money, buy more of these products, since people like to buy these products and ultimately get more profits.
Thank you very much for that. How do we change this value, these row labels? So I just
Yeah.
call the profit product title because just saying row label. Say how do we change it? Automatically anything.
You can just you can just double click, come here, delete all this, and just say product name, and just like that changes.
But I thought there was something that automatically updates the table name that you have to set in an option somewhere. I mean, I saw it in one of the videos. That's
Something else.
It just updates the column name.
The column name, like, okay, update it with what exactly? Like
table.
when,
Anything you put there, rather than low. You know, you typed now. You typed the product name. But
yeah.
there's an option you go and set up in Excel automatically. Maybe one tabular, one thing that. Anything you drag in that column or row, it just automatically updates that column by its name without you typing. That's what I'm saying.
Oh well, I don't know, maybe they exist, but I mean, this is how I prefer to do my stuff because I want to be able to, because most times, see now here it's called English product name. I don't want it to be English product name regardless. So I like to always label my own columns. That's why I prefer to just come here and I can just, put anything I want, whatever it is. I can just whatever it is I want. But in this case, we just want to say, profit. I mean, now let me just say from my experience now, another analysis that might make sense that it could be that, see, from what I've seen, most times when we have most times products, how do I put it? Most times products with the most profits necessarily don't really mean that they sold the most. Let me explain what I mean. I don't know if it's going to work for this data, but then it works sometimes. Now, I'm going to drag, since we created a measure called total sales, right? So let me just close this, and now this total sales, right? So now what I want to do is I want to move total sales also here. So we can see that, okay, for this product here, you gave us the highest profit. So how was your sales like? Were you also the highest sales, or were you the lowest sales, or were you just in between? You just to know that, okay, kind of, trying to tie sales to profit, because sometimes the products that give you the most profits don't actually give you the most sales. So let's just do that and just move it to values and see. And just like, and so I'm just gonna say sort this largest to smallest. Okay. Let me format this guy. I don't know why it's okay. Finally, so dollars, comma. All right. So let me just come back here. Okay. So in this case, we see that it is the highest profit and also the highest sales. So what I'm just trying to say is that most times you just want to look at stuff like this, because I've seen data sets where, for example, there's a products that give you the most profit, but then when you look at the sales, actually sold less. It actually sold less, yes. And I mean, it makes sense because your profits is basically equal to your sales minus costs, right? And if you incur more costs from a particular product, it means your profit is going to go lower. So even if your sales is at an all-time high and you're incurring more cost, it basically means that you're losing profit. And I mean, for any business, profit is the most important thing. As in most times, people don't just want to look at sales alone; they want to look at profits, especially with consumer goods business, like FMCGs, like places where you like malls, supermarkets, and all that. So you want to be able to look at your profit side by side to your sales and know that, okay, but for these places where I'm getting high profit at the sales commensurate, or I'm getting high sales at the profits commensurate, basically. So at a very high level, that's just trying to show us the difference between a calculated column and a measure, and also how that applies in visualizing the data. Any questions so far? Any questions from anybody? All right, no questions, right?
Question.
Sorry?
No question. All
right, so let me just do one last thing. If you want to post put a filter or something, you could just come here where it says analyze filter insight slicer. So you can actually put anything here. Let me just say English product name, so that they can also filter by anything. So yeah, it just shows you for this particular guy alone. This shows you for just this shows you for those this. And if you want to see everything again, you just click this and everything goes back to normal. Let me just talk about one more thing called relationships, right? So how many of us understand what this means, right? A one-to-many or a many-to-one relationship. Does anybody have an idea what that means? A one-to-many relationship, many-to-one relationship, relationships basically. Any idea? Anyone?
One-to-many goes as the name implies now. You are trying to connect maybe a dimensional table to a fact table. And for example, if you have a unique unifier there, maybe in the dimensional table there is a date, for example, and on the fact table that has all the record, you now connect the date from the dimensional table to the fact table. So once you do that, you are doing one-to-many.
Sorry, so why exactly is it one-to-many? Why exactly is it one-to-many?
Okay.
Why exactly is this one-to-many?
Why is it one-to-many?
Yes.
Because you are trying to reason a particular, a particular column now that has a unique that is unique to the others. Like I mentioned dates now. I want to do, maybe I have date on the dimension table and I have other fact table used to contain everything and there is date there also. I can just do one-to-many from this dimension table to link my date in the fact table. So it will be one-to-many, and so that when I slice or when I do my analytics, it will go across everything on the fact table.
I think I understand what he's trying to explain. So one-to-many means in the dimensional table, there's a unique occurrence of that particular item. So that item in the dimensional table is, in the dimensional table, you have like one of each item. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the fact table, you can have many ones, right? You can have many twos. You can have many threes. So it's a one-to-many. Of course, it is a unique value on this particular table. But you can see it repeated on several records on this other table.
All right. Yeah, I think I think both of you explained it well. Just to provide something pictorial. So let me just do this. So if I want to relate this, can you mute for a while? So if I want to relate table A to table B, what's it going to be? Table A to table B is going to be what? What kind of relationship?
One-to-many.
All right. What of table B to table A?
Many-to-one.
How about this?
Many-to-many.
All right. So I don't know. It feels like there's just one person talking. I just want to be sure that everybody also understands this concept, because it's going to be crucial to understanding data model in itself. Because understanding data model is like the background to even perform any analysis at all. Because if you don't understand what the data model is and how data tables relate to one another, you might not be able to effectively perform any analysis. So if we don't have any other questions here on EDAB 8, I think EDAB 8 just took by Excel. I think it looks like we are pretty good. Sorry?
I don't understand it very well. Please explain again.
Okay, what don't you understand? Is it the relationship concept or what exactly?
Yes, the relationship concept.
All right, so now tables are joined by what we call keys or IDs or identities. Now, when you have two tables, you can link them by values. Let me just use a basic example. Now, in table A, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You know what? Let me just do it like this. Let me take this A. Let me say ID. Let me just say name, right? Name. So let me just say bread. Bread. I just want to paint as pictorial as possible. Bed, plates, cup, broom. Then let me just say is it TV, right? This table A. Now we have table B, right? We have table B. Table B is
Yes.
table B is going to contain. So table B in this case now is a fact table, and then you're going to see why it's a fact table. Table B is going to contain ID and price. Price. So let me just say 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. Now, price 800, 800, 900, 900, 900. So now A is a dimension table. It's a dimension table. Now B is a fact table. This is a fact table. Right? Now, a dimension table consists of IDs and the attributes. For example, now just look at it like ShopRite, basically, or Just Right, or any of these malls we go to. They all have products that they sell, all these products on the shelf, and they all have a price. So the dimension table is just going to contain ID and name. Now, ID, because you need to be able to link everything to a particular identity. That's why, for example, for most organizations, for most structured organizations, you have an employee ID. Your driver's license, you have an ID. Your NI, you have an ID. Your national ID card, you have an ID. So there has to be an ID to link any entity. So that's why we have an ID and a name. So this is a dimension table now. Now, dimension table typically consists of just one of the same attribute. So you will not see bread appearing 2 times, except if it's maybe coconut bread and pineapple bread. But you will not see 2 of the same thing appearing twice. That's why it's called a dimension table. It has just one. But now your fact table will just have the ID of the dimension and the price. So you can see that your fact table now, you don't have bread, plates, cup, and all these things. You only have the price, and that's what a fact table is. Fact table just contains the ID. And this is important because you want to be able to say, okay, this thing that was sold was ID1. And what is ID1? ID1 is bread. And to be able to get that, you need to be able to have a relationship between these 2. So now you can see that ID, we have one ID1 here, but then there are 2 ID1s here. So that's why it's called a one-to-many relationship.
Okay.
We have ID2 here, it's called a one-to-many relationship. So once it's more than 1, it is called many. Even if it's 2 or it's 1 million, it's one-to-many.
Okay.
Do you understand? So do you grab the concept now?
Yes, I do.
All right, so let me just, in the little time we have, let me just go through DAB 9. So DAB 9 is just basically trying to replicate the same thing we did here, but now with Power BI. So I'm going to save this, remote files. So let me just connect to Power BI, right? Power BI, desktop. So I'm not going to go through the same process because these days, what DAB8 does is just trying to, tell you what, how it's going to look like in Excel, because industry standard now, people don't do that anymore. They just use Power BI now, and just going to be the same thing. Just that everything you're going to do on Power BI is on one file. We don't have to click a data model that takes us somewhere else. Now, so the same thing, we're going to say get data. So I'm going to get data from my SQL server I have on my local computer. And so what's my server name? Anybody? Do you remember what I said about server names?
You said dot, right?
Versus those with the dots. I say okay. Then
Sorry, why do you put dots? Can you explain? You did it in Excel. Can you just explain why you put dots?
yeah, so when you have a server like an SQL server on your laptop, because so normally now when you have a server online in cloud, maybe Amazon or Microsoft or anywhere, now your server name is going to be like a URL. You still stuff like 133.230. Something, right? That's the server name. But now this server is on my laptop. So my laptop it is local on my laptop. So the hosting is a local host. Now,
how did you get the SQL on your laptop? Sorry. How did you get the SQL server on your laptop?
I installed it.
Sorry, can I just see it on your desktop? I've never seen it before. So
Yeah, installed it. So you need to install the server to have the server on your laptop. You need to get installed. So once you install it, your server name is just going to be your computer name. For example, my computer name is Dell. So it's going to be maybe Dell Latitude, something. It's too long. It's too long. That name is too long. So I just prefer to put dot because I don't want to be putting my computer name on my head because it's stressful. When there's an alternative, you just put a dot and it connects. I'm just going to say dots and I'm just going to say okay. I'm going to select Adventure Works. I'm going to bring in the same tables I brought in basically. Then products, right? Then sales territory and fact internet sales. Load. So essentially, I'm just going to create the same thing we did. Create a calculated column and create a measure.
Hello, please. I believe this is on record. I joined late. I didn't follow through your Excel
Yes,
Excel part. Yes, hope it's being recorded. I can go back and listen to it.
Yes, recorded, no problem.
Okay.
So let's create the calculated column, right? So in this case now in Power BI now, you won't see add column here, right? Like in Excel, okay, close it, sorry. In Excel, you see something called add column here. But here we have to right click an existing column. When you right click an existing column, you see new column, then you select new column. So when you do that, it creates a new column here. So I can now type in here and say profits, right? So we're just going to basically use the same formula we used before. Profits, right? Equal to sales amount. So do you know it's not working here? I'm on the wrong table. So just gonna cancel this. So I should be on facts actually. So I'm gonna come back here and scroll all the way to the end. Right click this, then new column. I'm just gonna call this profits. And I'm going to say equal to sales amount, right? Minus tax, minus the freight. So you see, just like that, we have the same thing we had in Excel. That's it here. You can see that I'm still on the same interface. I'm still here. This is my report. I'm still on one page. I didn't just go to another page. So that's different between Power BI. And here too, we have the same relationship that we spoke about, one to many, many to one, whatever it is. Thank God we all understand the concepts now. So that's it. So I'm going to also create something called a measure. Now, what I'm going to do here is what I personally like to do because I feel it's more standard practice. I don't like putting my.
Please, that relationship on Power BI created itself, unlike the Excel where you have to create.
No, even the Excel created it. Even the Excel created itself. Do you know why I created itself? Because I'm pulling from a database, and that in the database there already exists a relationship. A database. Okay. There's a primary key to foreign key relationship on database. So Power BI is smart and says, okay, I see an existing relationship, then I just do the connection for you.
Okay, but when you pull from Excel, this thing you have to create.
Yes, when you put my Excel file, you need to do that. When you put my Excel file, you need to manually just drag and drop, and it's not difficult. So let me just delete this relationship just for what's it called, for learning sake. So I'm going to delete this relationship and attempt to recreate it again. So yes, let me delete it. So let me recreate it again now. So it's joining on product key is equal to product key. So first of all, I need to make sure that the two they are in the same pane because it's going to be a drag and drop. So I'm going to select product key and drag it and move it, put it on top of product key. And then create a relationship. So if you're in a situation where Power BI doesn't detect your relationship, you can always create it by yourself. Now, what I like to do for measures, I don't like to put measures in specific tables. I like to create a different table to house my measures. So I like to call it something like key measures, for example, key. And I like to put an hashtag so it appears at the top. So key, because of alphanumeric, so key measures, right? And I'm just going to say load. So what happens is going to load here as part of my tables. You can say I put an hashtag so that it's at the front. If I don't put an hashtag, it's going to sort it alphabetically, and K is after F, so it's going to be down. So I put an hashtag so it appears at the top.
Thank you. This is the best answer, something like this. So just to recap what you said instead of me creating measures in any existing table, I can create measures. Once I set up the relationship, I can go and create all my measures and put it in a separate table. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's what I like to do myself because
This
I
is
mean,
good.
I don't, because I mean, there are so many columns here. I don't want to be looking for measure everywhere. So I just want to be able to.
This is good, believe in me. But so you now put asterisk to make it on top so that you don't start that.
Yeah. So based on alphanumeric, so it's filters, no numbers first before alphabet. So
I would like to see how you create the different columns.
yeah, no problem. So we're just going to do a right click and
sorry for disturbing you. So you said before we do this standalone table for measures, we should have created that relationship first, right?
Not even before, not even not even for measures alone. Once you have your data, you must first of all create a relationship. Because see, your measures doesn't need to be your measures doesn't need a relationship between any of them. But these tables, they need to be a relationship for them to even talk to each other. This guy needs to talk to this guy needs to talk to this guy. And the only way they can talk to each other is through a relationship. You get. Okay. So I'm going to do something. So when we are done with all the measures, I'm going to put some values and I'm going to delete the relationship. I'm going to show you the implication of not having relationships. So I mean data relationships now. So new measure, what we did before was called sales amount, right? So you can see here, I'm just going to say sales amount, right? And I'm just going to say sum, just basic sum sales. So you can see that it's giving me all the, because unlike what's it called now? Unlike in Excel, when you're on a table, they are restricted to measures in that particular table alone. You can see now, as I'm typing sales amount, I'm on a different table, but now I'm selecting globally from any of this. So I'm just going to close this and boom. So that's my sales amount here. You can see it here. Now, Power BI is still seeing this as a table. I don't want you to see it as a table. I want you to see it as a measure table. And the only reason why it's seeing this as a table, you can see this symbol for table. It's seen as a table because there's this column here. This column 1 is a column on the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click here and I'm going to say delete from model. And once I delete this, you're going to see that the symbol is going to change. So I say yes. And see what it looks like. Now this is the symbol for a measure. You can see it looks like a calculator. So Power BI now knows that, okay, this table is for your measures. Do we understand so far?
Yes, I think I get it.
Sorry.
Is it creating the measures? Sorry? Do you mean creating the measures?
I said I think I got what you did now. You are trying to convert that table to measure symbol.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can leave it as that, but I mean, I like to, I don't know, I'm a tidy freak. I like to keep things the way they are. If it's a measure table, let me know it's a measure table. If it's a table, let me know.
It's good. No, it's good for best practice.
Exactly. So at first glance, anybody that's looking at your reports, even if you see them work on this, anybody
Sorry,
that
why did you make it in form of a table in the first place? Why did you create the
I created it
form of a table?
It doesn't want his work to scatter. He want to have all his measures. He wants to be seeing them on the four page.
And then you want it to be on top.
Yeah, I want to be on top because that's the first thing, because at the end of the day, in Power BI, I want to work with my measures first. So I want to be able to see, okay, these are my measures. That's just me. That's just my personal preference, actually. I like to have measures first before the other tables. Is that my network or someone else? My network, can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you, but you are it's like you are rapping, you are fast.
I hear you.
Okay. I said I like to have my key measures at the top because I mean these are the metrics, these are what they're going to work with in Power BI. All these other ones are just going to be where you just want to filter by the dimension or the attributes. But this is that's why I say key measures, because it's like they're key to building a report. So now that we have this, let's just try to build the report. Let's just try and do the same thing we did in Excel. So now here you have to select the table. So I'm just going to click here where it says visualizations. I'm going to say table. And now you can just say, so
sorry, please. Can I just ask this? Sorry, please.
Yeah, fine.
I'm always getting lost. Sorry. You said you created the table separately, key measures, so that you can know all your measures are there. But it showed you a calculator. So that column 1 automatically came up, right? When you created that new table, right?
Yes, yes.
So when you now said create new column, how did you create this sales amount column?
So you just right click on that table and say new measure. See?
Okay, that column 1 was still there, right?
Then the column 1 was still there. So after I created it and now deleted it. Now note. Let me show you what happens. Now this is why I created it, right? So this one, let me I just want to show you guys something. Let me just say hashtag.
How did you get to this create table? What did you do?
See why it says enter data here?
Where? I can't see it.
Here.
Create new table,
So
okay.
I just come in, I name it. So let me just give this one. I just want to show us an example. You can see this column 1 is naturally there already. It's originally here.
Okay.
Because what this means is that you can actually input stuff manually here. That's why Power BI created column 1. But I don't want to put anything here yet. So let's just say load. Now let me show you something. It's going to load it here now. So this is what's going to happen if you don't see. So you can see column 1 now. Come on. You see column 1?
Yes, it's there.
See now, see what happens if I don't create a measure before I delete column 1. See, if I'm just going to say delete column 1 without creating any other measure. See what's going to happen to that table. I say yes. You see what happens? The table goes out entirely because in Power BI or in data at all, you cannot have any table without a column. So what it's saying is that if you are going to delete column 1, it means you're going to delete the whole table. But if you create a measure first before you delete column 1, then the table stays. Do we understand that?
Yes, we get you.
Fantastic.
It's good. It looks tidy. Thank you.
So let me just do the visualization. I'm going to say English product name. So Power BI is very smart. Once I just click this, it knows where I want to put it. So I'm just going to say English product name, and it's just like that. It puts it here for me. So let me just drag it down, and I want profits, right? So let me just say profits. Can always drag and drop also, and put it here profits.
Can we get the recording?
Yes, it's also, I think it's streaming on YouTube also. So the recording and YouTube, you can always get it. I think it's on if you go to traffic, right?
I'll post the link on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. So I'll just post the link, and after the class, you can watch on YouTube.
All right, perfect. So now the other thing that we did before is, we did sales amounts, right? So now our sales amount is here now, right? So I'm just going to put it and put it here, right? So let's say I want sales amount to come before profit. You can always reorder it anyhow you want. So I can just drag this down one. Sales amount comes first, or do like this, and if you want to rename, if you want to rename it in Power BI, you can't do it here. You need to do it here. You double click and say product name, right? So this is where you rename stuff. And for the sliders in Power BI, this is what you do. So this is what happens. When you want to select a new measure, you need to come here and select the measure. So this is called a slicer. See, I've selected this table. See what happens when I try to select a slicer. See, Power BI will turn that visual to a slicer, and that's not what we want to do. So when you want to select the new slicer, you need to click away from what I've created originally. So I will click away from this table now, and I'm going to select slicer, and it creates the desired effect. So I'm just going to come back here and say English product name, and it gives me a list. And I don't want a list because it doesn't look tidy. I'm just going to click here and say, okay, give me a drop down, and then it gives me a drop down. Then I can reduce the height of this, and I can reduce the width of this also, and just say, okay, let it show. I just want to see just for all-purpose backstand, and then it shows me just for all-purpose backstand. Now, last thing I want to show us is the implication of not having a relationship. You can see the way these values are, right? You can see for all-purpose backstand, it tells you what the profit is, tells you what the sales amount is. You can see everything, right? Now, let me just come here and delete this relationship. Delete, yes. Now there's no relationship. Let me come back here. Can you see what happens? Can you see this? Can you see what's going on here?
The values
See that you remove relationship, so it's not connected again.
I removed relationship. So what Power BI is saying is Power BI took the total sum. See, this is sum. You just took total sum and say, okay, hey, I don't know what sum we're talking about, but then I can just show you something. Since you wanted something, I'm going to show you the same price for every of them because I don't see how to say, because I don't know what adjustable price is. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is because there's no relationship. If you come back here and create that relationship, product key to product key and yeah, come back here and just like that, see that's rearranged itself, right? And let's just sort it, largest to smallest, largest to smallest. Yeah. So that's just it in a nutshell. That's either 8 and 9 at a very high level. So like I said, you don't expect to be an expert at once. This is just a very basic report. There's part of Power BI where you need to make it fine and nice, the aesthetics, this is just the analysis behind it. You still have to make it fine and all that. So everything is gradual, it's a gradual process. So if you find yourself having to watch, even up to now, there's still some new, because data world is evolving and there's some new stuff, there's some new courses I take every time. I find myself going back 10 times, 20 times back to the same video just to understand the concept. Mastery is not done in a day. Mastery takes time. It's iterative. So if you need to go back to the videos a couple of times, don't think it's not because you don't understand the concept. It's just because you need to gain mastery. So do we understand?
Yes.
All right. So I think time is up. So if there are no more,
Yes.
if there are no questions, I think we're good for today, right?
Yeah.
Is it just me or a voice breaking?
It should be
Yeah,
a
I think
network.
it's breaking. We can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong with your network. Can you, if you have something to say, can you just type in the chat
Hello.
box? Okay, I think we can hear you now.
Okay. In the EDAB 9 class, the Mike Gavin's video, he created a table and everything, and then he created 3 measures: total revenue, total cost of goods sold, and something like that. And then he made a pivot table with it. So when I tried to do it, the measures appeared automatically. Let's break it into years, like he was in his own example.
Sorry, you were cut out for 15 seconds. I think I didn't get what you said. Can you just repeat the question? Okay, and it's like still bad.
Okay, from the information he had. And then just like when you did your own, the measures you created, and then it was not connected in the relationship, and then it gave the total values. Do you understand me? That was exactly what I got when I did my own example. But when he did his own example, everything was broken into years. And do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I would understand eventually, but the network cut you out for some 30 seconds, so I didn't get the in between.
Oh God.
So wait, you said the issue you had was when you tried to follow what he did, right? What was the issue you said you had? What was the issue you said you had? I think your network is good now, so let us talk about it.
When I tried to follow what he did, his own result was broken into years. It was like maybe 2014 to maybe 2020. Whereas mine was just the total value. He just gave me the 2 total values, and that was it. And it was connected in a relationship. Everything I did was right. I just didn't give him what he was giving him.
Okay. What I'm going to say is, can you hear me?
I think our network is not that very.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. So this is what I'm going to say, right? So can you reach out to me on Slack? Can you hear me?
Hello, Sister.
Our network is not stable.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what I need to say.
I'll contact you.
Okay, so just reach out to me on Slack, right? And just Emanuelisa on Slack. So just reach out to me on Slack and just take a snapshot of what the issue is and let me know. So I'll be able to know what the problem is. So it's one of two things. It's either this relationship issue or maybe you didn't put in the right dimension, basically. You get, yeah. So when you reach out to me, I'll know what the issue is.
Yeah.
All right, so if that's
Thank you.
yeah, you are welcome. All right, so if that's all, I think that's all for today, right? No other questions, right? Can you please mute her, admin? Can you please mute her? Yeah, so that's all right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming today. And thank you for such an educative class.
All right.
Okay, all right. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming for today's mentor session. So we're going to have the next mentor session on Tuesday. The next mentor session is going to be on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Tuesday. Remember to please cover up all your lectures if you haven't done that, because we're going to continue posting from Monday. Thank you all. Bye.
Please hold on. Where do you say you are going to put this video? I came late, please.
I'm going to post the link on Slack. It's going to be on Slack. I'll post it on the beta cohort on Slack. It's going to be an announcement on Slack, basically. So it's going to be on Slack. If we log out now, I'll post it on Slack.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you guys for the
All right.
great